So in the culmination of the Sanctum of Domination, Sylvanas Windrunner, in one of the most anticipated, or one of the most dreaded boss fights in the entire game, chose to betray the Jailer.
I will never serve.
After everything she had done, after everything she strove to accomplish, she threw it all away with a single shot of an arrow. And I know there were many who were confused by it, upset, even outraged, to put it more realistically. And I understand. I found myself in the same boat. If you're familiar with my work, you know that I advocated for Sylvanas to die here and now in the Sanctum of Domination, believing that it would serve the irony of what she was trying to accomplish. On the road to break her fate, she would meet her fate, as all do. But that did not happen. Not only did Sylvanas not die, but she also gave up her best chance at fulfilling her desires. So the question, the topic on many minds, is there a reason? Is there a reason as to why this happened? As to why Sylvanas broke her pact? And, well, after doing a few weeks worth of thinking, I have come to a conclusion. Yes and no. Yes, being that there is a reason that I found that is fairly convincing, and it's pretty obvious when you look it over. But no, because there are many holes in Sylvanas' storyline that will not be filled until her upcoming novel, which might make the reason seem weak, or in lack of better terms, just an excuse. And I understand that sentiment. I know that there are going to be many who are just going to disregard this video, especially as soon as I start throwing around comparisons. I'm sure there's already those who have clicked off, and I understand it for the most part. Just know that this video is just my own thoughts, my own reasoning based around something that was never going to be well received regardless of what happened. This is not me making excuses. This isn't an Alluin situation where most of the outrage is from a place of ignorance. People have valid complaints about Sylvanas, complaints that are 100% justified. Sylvanas hasn't been the best written or the best presented character, but bad lore is lore, and my job is to take that lore and give context and to make it make sense. I'm sure many will be mad at this video, could even be my first ratio, but I am okay with that. So today's question: why did Sylvanas betray the Jailer? And, well, before we can get into that, I think it's best if we all start by being all on the same page. So the question must be asked: why did Sylvanas side with Zoval in the first place? Well, if you followed me and my stuff for the last little while, or even paid remotely attention to the story of Shadowlands, you'll know the answer. Sylvanas was dealt a bad hand. From the moment she was born to when she was promoted to Ranger General, to her life and unlife, things have not been kind to her. Originally, coming out of Warcraft 3, Sylvanas' plan was to seek revenge against Arthas for destroying her home and turning her into a Banshee. Along this quest for vengeance, Sylvanas sided with the Horde. She ordered the development of the new plague, but failed to see her ultimate desire and watch Arthas fall the way she wanted to. But even then, her mission was a technical success. Arthas was in fact slain, and her vengeance had been fulfilled. And so, after the events of Wrath of the Lich King, Sylvanas committed suicide. She leapt off Icecrown Citadel and passed into the Shadowlands, yet her death did not bring her peace. Either under the will of the Arbiter or from the Jailer's own intervention, Sylvanas was sentenced to the Maul to forever reside by the very man she hated with a passion. But luckily, she was approached by the Valkyr, who gave Sylvanas a choice: stay in the Maul or be free of this place, return to her people, and take the Valkyr Valkyr as her servants. But little did Sylvanas know that those Valkyr had originally belonged to Helya, that their freedom from Arthas meant a return to servitude under their original master. And as we became aware very recently, it was Helya who served the jailer, and it was the jailer who owned the Maw, the very hellscape Sylvanas ended up in. Obviously, Sylvanas didn't have that information and chose the latter option. Both out of guilt for leaving her people for doom, they did see her vengeance fulfilled and they had been pretty loyal to her, and to get the hell away from the Maw. And it was after these events, after Sylvanas was raised from the dead, that her new goal became survival at any cost, because what awaited for her in the afterlife was nothing to be happy about. And this all led to the present. Every choice brought the Banshee to here, in 9.1 atop Oribos. Presented with an opportunity to break her destiny in the afterlife, Sylvanas instead chose to betray the jailer, the one man who could have given her what she wanted, even if it meant becoming his underling in the process. She tossed away her goals for what it seemed like a few people she had no issue in killing just a few minutes ago, and the mention of the word serve. Now, if you manage to conclude that this is why Sylvanas betrayed Zovaal, that the word serve had to be spelled out for her in order for the Banshee to realize what she was doing, I can't really blame you. Like I said, the way Sylvanas was portrayed, the way she's been presented, it was poor. It never felt natural for her to take this route, especially after all she had done. But there is a reason for her betrayal. In fact, I found two reasons, both of them tying into one another. Now, they weren't very well presented reasons, I'm just gonna let you know, which is something that people should be complaining about, but they were reasons nonetheless. For one, looking back on what I just told you, Sylvanas was destined to an awful life, then was destined to an awful afterlife right beside the man that caused her an awful unlife. Then, through Helya and her Valkyr, Sylvanas met the jailer, and the jailer promised Sylvanas that if she helps him, she will escape her fate, that she will be free from a system that treats her and those like her with unfairness.
No more secrets, no more lies. You are a weapon we will use to achieve our ends.
I will not become an instrument of death.
So you favor life, is that it? That momentary flicker. Every cruel second spent delaying the inevitable in an endless war that you, like every Rin before you, will not survive. You know the truth. Nothing is fair. Not life, not death. So we're going to tear it all down.
And what purpose would that serve? Everyone suffers, Sylvanas. But destroying everything will not take away the pain.
Oh, you misunderstand. We're breaking a system that has always been flawed and remaking it into one that is just.
Do you expect me to believe that all this time, you've been fighting for justice?
How can I convince you? From our first breath to our last, every decision is made for us. Then, the afterlife decides what eternity we must endure. We can't even choose who we couldn't control anything. But through the jailer, control of our fate will at last be possible.
And it's likely that, given Zovaal's situation, he used his imprisonment in the Maw as a way to goad her into a deal that he, too, is a prisoner to the system just like her. It were the Eternal Ones that bound Zovaal to the Maw, after all, and he just so happened to leave out the detail where he was imprisoned because he wanted more and more power all to himself. But whether or not she believed him, whether or not Sylvanas really trusted the jailer, Zovaal was still her best chance at a better roll of the dice. Maybe he was telling the truth. maybe it wasn't, but Sylvanas was going to take that chance. She took the chance of killing innocents with the plague to topple Arthas. She took the chance with a better life after death by killing herself, and this was really no different. And yet, at the end, Sylvanas realized that her faith in Zovaal was misplaced, and that he was just after power. So, no new tomorrow, no new afterlife, just servitude under the jailer. And so Sylvanas shot her arrow at Zovaal and didn't subvert her fate, which is another point I would like to make about this. Like I stated at the very beginning of this video, on the road to change one's destiny, one often meets it. Sylvanas was no different, because on her journey, her destiny caught up with her. She might not have died to forever be bound within the Maul, but she did avoid shaping her future. And this is a really complex idea and is really an hour-long discussion in of itself, because how do you change your fate? Because if you change your fate, doesn't that mean your fate was all along this new fate that you've given yourself? So you can't really change your fate, because how do you change something that was already defined? And you know what? I'm just going to stop right there before I go down a rabbit hole. So Sylvanas did not subvert her fate. In fact, it caught up to her, and it caught up to her in the form of a young Stormwindian noble that we have become all too familiar with. Anduin Wrynn. Anduin Wrynn, King of Stormwind. It was he that caused the Banshee to doubt her ambitions, doubt in Zovaal, and thus follow the path of fate. But how? Why? How did this boy king, someone that Sylvanas was more than happy to kill just an expansion earlier, change her mind? Well, to answer that, I believe we have to go back to when things really started to hit the fan for Sylvanas. The War of the Thorns. Then and there, to begin the Blood War, Sylvanas ordered the burning of Teldrassil. What Sylvanas did, what the Horde agreed to do, it was horrific. It was a war crime no bigger than Garrosh's attack on Theramore. And of course, Sylvanas watched it burn. She watched Teldrassil turn to ash, smiling, joyous by her actions. She had no attachment to Teldrassil, no connection to the people it housed. In fact, if given the chance, each victim who died atop the World Tree would be more than happy to end the Banshee Queen's life. Or, well, unlife. This is where things can really start to be realized, because unlike those around him, unlike the other leaders of the Alliance, Anduin was different. Every time he came face to face with the Horde, every time he came face to face with Sylvanas, he was fair. From the very beginning, he tried to negotiate with Sylvanas. He tried everything he could to form good relations with the Banshee Queen and her Horde. And it wasn't until Sylvanas acted out that Anduin took up arms against her. But even when he did so not with threats of immediate death, but threats of consequence.
Look at you. The boy's playing soldier.
Our king just routed your army!
Muzzle your dog, your majesty.
Sylvanas Windrunner, you have led the Horde to a place without honor. Lordaeron is ours. It's over.
Your father would be so proud. Is that his? You've gotten it all bloody.
Only one of us wanted this war.
You call for peace when it suits you, little lion. But you're quick enough to kill.
I should have killed you when last we met.
How rude, sister. You're a guest in my home.
Your home? You desecrate that throne with your filth! Enough!
You put the torch to Teldrassil. But I failed those who burned. I will not make that mistake again. Surrender. Or die.
So unlike nearly all leaders before him, Anduin treated Sylvanas different. He treated her people different. Instead of looking to her, looking to the Forsaken as less than human, he approached them as equals. In the novel, Before the Storm, it was Anduin, fresh to the throne of Stormwind, that offered Sylvanas' Forsaken a chance to reunite with their living peers. Because not all who lived in Lordaeron died during the Third War. Many died, of course, but many more escaped. The many who died were raised into undeath and went on to join the Forsaken, and those who escaped went on to join the Alliance and now live south of the Thandal Span. The Alliance, before Anduin, held very poor views on the Forsaken as a whole. They considered them monsters, little more than pests like the gnolls and murlocs of Elwyn, but not Anduin. Anduin treated them like he would anyone else, and gave the Forsaken and his own people a chance to make amends. He has always been that character. He has always been the one that sees the good in someone. He sees people not for what they are, but for what they could be. Anduin Wrynn has really become the Luke Skywalker of Warcraft, and Sylvanas has become his Vader. To switch universes for a second, Vader. Darth Vader. Vader did a lot of bad stuff. He butchered countless people, committed atrocities unseen in the Star Wars galaxy. He was a monster. He is one of the most iconic faces of evil in American culture. Yet, in the end, he was redeemed. Not because he had some sort of guilt for what he had done, not because he had a change of heart for those he caused suffering to, but because someone finally treated him different. To let Luke say it.
So, you have accepted the truth.
I've accepted the truth that you were once Anakin Skywalker, my father.
That name no longer has any meaning for me.
It is the name of your true self you've only forgotten. I know there is good in you. The Emperor hasn't driven it from you fully.
It's the choice you never had. Despite all your grand designs, there's still some shred of your mortality haunting you. As if the Banshee Queen hasn't entirely eclipsed the Ranger General.
Don't.
Now I understand why you brought me here. Why you've tried so hard to persuade me. Because if you can get me to let go of hope, you finally can too.
Obi-Wan once thought as you do. You don't know the power of the dark side. I must obey my master.
I will not turn, and you'll be forced to kill me.
If that is your destiny.
Search your feelings, Father. You can't do this. I feel the conflict within you. Let go of your hate.
It is too late for me, son.
Right now, you hold all the power. How will you use it?
I've not come this far to falter now.
Then why do you hesitate? Make your choice, Sylvanas Windrunner.
And I think this is where we are at with Sylvanas and Anduin. Anduin, even at her mercy, treated Sylvanas as an equal. He tried to reason with her. Instead of calling for her head as so many others had in the past, he approached her as, well, in layman's terms, as a human being. He saw the good in her, just as Luke did to his father. In essence, everything Sylvanas believed about Azeroth, all the hatred and disgust she gets from not only the Alliance, but also from the Horde, Anduin shattered. Anduin Wrynn was the antithesis of everything Sylvanas thought about the world. And this all led to a choice that she was not given, but a choice that Anduin gave her. Sylvanas, of course, went through with her choice to turn Anduin into this killing machine, albeit hesitantly, but later counteracted her decision by undoing her shackles of servitude and betraying Zoval. And that puts us in the present day. What will happen? Well, I'm not sure. But what I am sure of is that there are many who believe Sylvanas will be forgiven for her actions, that the writers have an obsession with her, that there is no way they'd let anything happen to her. But if you like a character, you want to give them a proper send-off. And if the Anduin Sylvanas story continues down a path similar to Star Wars, I am sure that Sylvanas will meet her fate similar to how Vader did. And just like Vader after the fact, she will not be given the satisfaction of a true redemption, as many on Azeroth would look to Sylvanas with much contempt and hatred, much like how those in Star Wars looked to Vader. Again, this is not perfect. Sylvanas is not a well-portrayed character, even if the motives are there. I just hope that a lot of people can see this video, understand the motives, and calm the hell down. If you have any questions or comments about this video, Warcraft, or its lore, you can leave them in the comment section down below, and I'll be sure to read each and every one of them. Thanks for watching, and remember well